Modeste-Curwen, the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Grenada.
Mr. President, Secretary General, heads of government, colleague ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to bring our usual warm greetings from the government and people of Grenada, on whose behalf I am privileged to address this renowned institution and distinguished gathering. I am also pleased to join esteemed colleagues before me in thanking the outgoing President of the 69th session of the General Assembly, His Excellency Sam Kutesa of Uganda, for his energetic and focused leadership. I commend the 69th session of the General Assembly for blazing the trail, a trail that we have no choice but to follow as we strive to deliver and implement a transformative post-2015 development agenda. Indeed, I also congratulate and thank Secretary General Ban Ki-moon for his extraordinary leadership of the United Nations, and to express our deep gratitude, especially for the keen interest shown in the developmental challenges facing small island developing states. To the incoming President of the 70th session of the General Assembly, Morgan Liketoff of Denmark, please be assured, sir, of my delegation's fullest cooperation and support as you embark on the road ahead for peace, security, and human rights. As is the custom, our themes reflect, as well they must, the current state of international affairs. It should be no surprise that matters of peace, security, and human rights continue to feature in the international discourse. Indeed, without these fundamental pillars of an orderly international system, it would be a colossal waste of time to even start to think of improving the quality of lives of our people. Therefore, Mr. President, at this historic juncture of UN at 70, you are accepting a new commitment for action for transforming our world. Interestingly, Mr. President, recent history has shown us that without peace, security, and human rights, development cannot be sustained. The impacts of climate change are already being felt the world over, and without a successful, legally binding agreement in Paris, we will see climate change continue unabated. We will see more floods and droughts, more hurricanes and cyclones, more hunger, more insecurity, more troubled spots around the world, and more economies in crisis. As leaders and as a community of nations, our actions from today onwards will dictate whether we bequeath to others a world where peace, security, and human rights can be assured, or a world where human tragedy and suffering become the norm. Mr. President, the General Assembly has recognized the unique vulnerabilities of SIDS. Grenada endorses the initiative taken at the Security Council to discuss the challenges facing SIDS. In this regard, we strongly urge the Security Council to continue to give greater consideration to the special circumstances of SIDS in relation to both traditional and non-traditional security concerns. Climate change is a critical issue, not only for intellectual debate, but for its manifestation as a major multi-dimensional security threat to small islands developing states. The foundation of our Sustainable Development Platform is undermined by climate change. The recent experience of our sister nation, the Commonwealth of Dominica, is ample evidence. Let us now commit, ahead of the COP21 in Paris, to adopting a new legally binding global climate change agreement that keeps the global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius, or 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Mr. President, a framework for climate change cannot wait. We need immediate consensus on climate change, including financing. We wish to place on record our gratitude to our international partners for their support to develop our capacity for climate change adaptation and mitigation in Grenada. We affirm our commitment to Agenda 21 and the Samoa Pathway. Grenada strongly supports the convening of triennial Oceans and Seas Global Conferences for the duration of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development, beginning with the June 2017 conference in Fiji to coincide with the World Oceans Day. We further suggest that initiatives like SIDS-DOC should be used as a global platform for governments and relevant stakeholders to ensure financing for the full implementation of SDG 14 and its targets. Mr. President, a little over 2 years ago, the government of Grenada, with the support of the international community, initiated a program of fiscal adjustment and structural reforms to boost economic growth and competitiveness, restore fiscal and debt sustainability, and strengthen the financial sector. We have made significant progress thus far, and our achievements have been documented in published reports by IMF and others. The success of this program derived from a social compact initiated by government to include our churches, our NGOs, trade unions, private sector, and political parties. We now call upon the international community to make good on its unkept promises of 0.7% ODA, notwithstanding that 0.2% goes to SIDS like Grenada. We urge the international community to share in the sacrifice that is required at this difficult period in our history. However, the unilateral graduation of many small island developing states to middle-income status is premature and has resulted in significant budgetary shortfalls. I therefore reiterate the call for a more holistic and comprehensive set of indicators for classifying states. The point is, per capita income as a sole measure without the context of climate vulnerability and other inherent structural challenges does more harm than good. Mr. President, we must reaffirm that the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals will depend on revitalized and enhanced global partnerships. Together, governments, civil society, the private sector, and the United Nations system must embrace all stakeholders, and we must get delivery on the commitments made on the Samoa Pathway. Our people and our planet can only realize prosperity and peace through reliable partnerships and frameworks which are assured by trust. Small island developing states like Grenada, already disadvantaged by small economies of scale, climate impact caused mainly by developed countries, and high indebtedness, only seek a level playing field that takes into account our disadvantages. However, we are disheartened by the fact that the same developed partners with whom we sit in our transparent intergovernmental engagement to find ways to develop our capacity revert to suspiciously blacklisting and declaring our jurisdictions as harmful tax havens. Mr. President, we called for developed countries to carefully weigh their interactions with small and vulnerable island states to ensure that we are in no way unjustly victimized economically and in reputation, especially when we have worked assiduously to comply with stipulated requirements. Grenada asserts that partnerships for sustainable development must be based on global solidarity, which affirms that none is more equal than the other among member states. Grenada seeks to safeguard the fiscal performance achieved with the necessary support of partners and stakeholders. Mr. President, history dictates that we must embrace our grave responsibility, daunting though it may be, to ensure a peaceful and sustainably developed planet for posterity. The carnages being committed around the world as we speak, demonstrated by persistent disregard for human life and the quest for dominance concealed by any faith, cannot be condoned. The concept or definition of peace begs for global consensus. A peaceful world is not just the absence of a world war. Authority and power must mean caring, not killing. The plight of displaced people driven from their habitat in extremely inhumane conditions in search of peace and a better life, free of fear, is regrettable and warrants our collective and decisive action to avert a wider and more destructive wave of migration. The spectacle of drowning and dying people, lost and displaced children, the abuse of the weak and the elderly, sexual violence against women is a disgrace to humanity. Their stories remind us of our interconnectedness as a global village and of our common humanity. In the words of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." End of quote. Mr. President, Grenada condemns the atrocities and crimes against humanity. Human dignity must be maintained in our world as one vital element to ensure the future we want. Our cities and human settlements must remain inclusive and safe, resilient and sustainable. Therefore, Grenada appeals to all member states to embrace SDG 11 and promote dialogue and diplomacy in the resolution of conflicts. In this regard, Grenada applauds the progress made in the recent rapprochement between Cuba and the United States. Grenada sees this peaceful resolution through dialogue as an example to be emulated between and among all states where violence, conflicts, and disputes prevail. Nevertheless, Grenada joins in the call for the total lifting of the commercial and financial embargo imposed on the sister island of Cuba. Grenada supports objective assessments of the United Nations' role in the modern world to consolidate its established knowledge-based authority and legitimacy as the premier global political forum. However, it is time to update our GPS. Maintaining status quo in the Security Council should not be an option. However, the Security Council, as a pillar of global security, must be carefully handled. In this regard, our organization should take stock of the contributions made by all member states on the reform of the Security Council, bearing in mind that a strengthened council will be better obtained and maintained through global consensus. Grenada also applauds the efforts to strengthen the role of the General Assembly to ensure lasting peace, security, and human rights. Mr. President, ambitious though it may be, the agenda set for the post-2015 era dictates that we must succeed. Mr. President, if we have the courage to start, we have the capacity to accomplish successful implementation of the SDGs for our planet, for prosperity today, and for posterity. I thank you.